back, everybody, to the ITL series, the Intro to Lorcana series. This is the last and final color we need to cover, which is steel. So, of course, I brought on my two residential steel enthusiasts. Along with myself, I have Koreysmash and DJ, the Zoologist Gunter, who you see both frequently. And they are both sporting the steel quite often. Corey's taken a little bit of
reprieve
recently, but I'm sure we'll see him back soon. We've kind of swapped places a little bit here. Um, but I have 5 different deck lists that we're going to talk about today, and which is kind of crazy, which speaks to the nature of steel itself because they are 5 compared with 5 different colors. They are 5 different lists. Um, Sharing a lot of cards, but all have very different strategies. So, do you guys want to go ahead and get started?
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a perfect time in the meta right now where we have such a diverse meta going on right now, and all of these are viable. Sorry, Ruby. But all the other steel combinations are doing very well.
In America, we love steel. In every other country, they like red.
If anything, the higher end band did wonders for this video.
It absolutely did.
Tragic, but valid.
All right, so we're gonna start with the I believe was the winner of the SSG 10K that was recently. This is what is known as the Kiwi version of Blue Steel, probably the only real surviving version of Blue Steel currently, besides the people who are tinkering with some other types of lists right now. Rest in peace. But to start us off, this is probably the list that has the most variation, I would say, in its steel color cards because, well, it plays a lot of them. There's not very many blue cards in here, but they all have very unique effects. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, one of my favorites in the deck is the one that we've coined, Sticky Mickey. Um, he is amazing because one of the worst parts about aggro decks is when you face down DJ's favorite Singer 3 Cinderella and your 1-drop immediately gets blown into the discard by a Storm Rage on. But Sticky Mickey is sticky and he sticks.
Yeah,
what do you guys think about Sticky Mickey? I'm a big fan.
I'm a huge fan of Sticky Mickey. I think he's viable. I think simply because he survives the 1-drop storm. He survives most 1 and 2-drop characters because he has that resist 1. He also provides a valuable shift target for other lists because I know some people are teching it to shift the 5-drop Mickey Mouse as a wheel singer. So, but in this, I think it's just good because you don't have to worry about losing him. So your tempo sticks.
Yeah, there's been so much in the meta for a while now that's kind of made that Cinderella on turn 1, let the Storm Rage on turn 2 just almost feel not as good and impactful, and it almost, especially being let the Storm Rage on being uninkable as a Steel Song player, it sometimes almost feels bad, and obviously not to the point where I'm cutting let the Storm Rage on and Cinderella package, but with these 3 willpower characters and then Mickey Mouse being a 1-drop with a pseudo 3 willpower for that purpose, I've definitely not been on the giving end of the Sticky Mickey, but I've gotten sticky from the Mickey.
God, excellent card. Next up, we have what is the flip of the willpower and strength of our friend Simba from the early end of the game. We have the recent Mulan, who is a draw discard filtering type card. What do you guys think of her? I'm a big fan. I like to see her back in this list now that we're kind of off the little popsicle train this deck was kind of on. So they kind of want that little pseudo draw power in there. But yeah, she's a solid card.
Yeah, I think like drawing and discarding, like filtering your deck is really good. Something that still is very on point with the steel colorway, as we've discussed in previous videos. I will say that this card is terrible against green steel. or Emerald still, because if I have a Prince John and a Diablo, I get 2 cards. So I happened to me when I was testing Emerald still at locals the other day. Somebody played. They were playing Ruby still, but they played this Mulan against me, and I was like, "I'll draw for the draw and then draw for the discard." And they're
Right.
like,
Oh,
"I didn't think about that one." So it's a great card.
yeah, definitely objectively in every way better than the Simba one drop, which saw a decent amount of play. It saw some play in some lists. Uh, it's not going to be ever great into those steel matchups that are running. Let the Storm Rage on with the Bell package or one drop. Well, I say one drop bell, the 3-drop bell that you can play on turn 1 by banishing usually a popsicle, or the Cinderella ballroom sensation. But it's not for that matchup. And being able to, as Korey mentioned, filtering your hand, and when you have a second dock or something like that in hand, or too many uninkables. I will say one thing to think about as playing this deck or playing against it is watch what they discard, because that's information. Whatever they discard, you can kind of gauge based on what they discard what is in their hand. You're never going to know exactly, but it can kind of give you a sense of what the structure of their hand is looking like.
For sure.
Nice. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Robin Hood. He has been a staple steel card since Into the Inklands is when we saw that package introduced. Is a 2-drop 1/1 as we've seen on many cards, but the special thing about him is he has a very good shift target that we will get to later. Do you guys have any comments on 1-drop Robin Hood?
No, I think we just knock out talking about both right now.
All
Just to speed up the process. The shift Robin Hood's really good right now because steel is like a heavy color in the meta currently. That 6 butt, just like we saw with we talked about with Hiram, it takes a lot to remove this card. So I think they understand, and then like gaining lore when you banish a character. If it gets banished by a character, you draw a card. So it's like it's a huge plus mechanic on a card. So and then also being able to get it out on 3 if you need to sing wheel, which we'll probably see in another list, but not this one. But this one's mainly for challenging and having that strong willpower to stick.
Yeah. And a lot of times you'll even see people just fear the threat of really any shift line, but with Robinhood and other shift lines that we'll see in other lists, just the threat of I might have it, and
Mm-hmm.
just making them think, oh, do I need to over prioritize and make an inefficient play given I don't have the shift Robinhood just to get rid of that 1-drop, whereas I didn't even have the shift line in my hand, but they had to play around it, so they kind of did a poor play if I don't have the shift Robinhood.
Or it's just stuns them from questing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kind of piggybacking off of that gain, the kind of gains who are off the challenging effect here. So it kind of lets them maintain the game plan of this deck, right, without sacrificing any tempo because they want to continue to gain lore, and typically to challenge, you would like lose that ability to gain lore. And so they're able
Mm-hmm.
to kind of mitigate losing the board, or kind of like being able to be a challenge down by gaining that lore, by getting rid of their characters. And it's super huge on the next card we're going to talk about here, because they both have that 3 on the challenging end of their attack here. So they can hit a lot of important numbers in the meta here. So we have that Shift Robin Hood line, and we lead into Calhoun. Both very huge cards that help on turn 2 and sometimes turn 3. But having Robin Hood shift on 3 with after Calhoun on 2 seems kind of crazy when you're going second here.
Yeah, absolutely. Calhoun, I always make the joke that it's miniature Robin Hood because it has resist 1, 2 strength, so it sticks really well. You can challenge into a 2 body and uh, only take 1 damage, still be standing, not getting banished, and gaining lore if you banish their character. So it fits, like we said, it kind of fits the play line where you just if you do have to take the challenge route, you're still netting your lore to get you to 20.
Yeah. And again, it's just one of those characters similar to Sticky Mickey, where in my experience, they get to kind of do what they want until I can finally start actually taking out these pseudo 3 willpower bodies, which then usually leads into turn 3, which we'll see another turn 3 card, a 3-drop steel card, which is very, very impactful into a Steel Song matchup. And so they just have a beautiful curve going into the Calhoun, into that aggression of being able to take down board-based decks and also be resilient to those removals, since you're not going to usually get anything that's taking out either power-based, it's not brawlable, it's not Let the Storm Rain johnable.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next one, we've got an important one that kind of fuels the game plan of kind of just pushing for lore. Getting us 2 cards, we've got Doc. Rarely are we discarding any of our hand, unless it's another Doc. But just being able to push, continue to grab 2 cards that are able to like just automatically probably be slapped on the board and continue that game plan of pushing to 20 as quickly as possible and making you answer what we are doing is extremely powerful. You have no, obviously this is paired with the blue, so you have no bounce because you don't really need that longevity. We're just trying to go as quickly as possible, close with these big threats.
Yeah, I think when I saw Doc, I was like, this card's busted. And a lot of people slept on it for a little while. And when now it's like if your deck's not playing wheel, you're playing Doc. So it's pretty much a staple now and probably going forward. Just such a good card. Drawing 2 when like you just like are in that awkward top deck scenario. If it's and then going Doc into Doc is like you're like, oh, hot goodness. So
Yeah. I mean, I can't say anything with the lucky top decks, but I don't know how many times I've run into players playing Doc that they're on nothing on board. I make sure not to, sing a whole new world because I don't want to give them more cards. And all I need them not to do is to top deck a Doc. And what do? They top deck a Doc into another Doc. And there's not much you can do after that because then they just have too much gas at that point, paired with their other cards that they've already kind of established a board with.
One of the like worst feelings when playing against Doc decks is like historically the way to beat aggro decks has kind of been like out resourcing them and getting them like down to nothing. So when you see your aggro opponent have like no cards in hand, you're like, yes, we're turning the corner, but the one card is Doc and the like, God, no. It's just continuing.
Yeah.
The depression sinks back in the moment they drop it down for 2.
It's very real.
Continuing on, you could talk about Doc for days. Like Korey kind of pointed out, the draw engine of choice in Steel these days is either Doc or Wheel. Moving on to another Steel staple. I'm gonna miss Winter Rotation hits. I can't believe that we might play in a world without Smee. But 2-drop Inkable 3/3 Smee, best 2-drop in the game for probably since he's been printed, right? Go ahead, take it away, guys.
I mean, you kind of said it all. It's an overstated character. Quest for 2. It's inkable. If you have any character that's a captain, he doesn't take the damage at the end of the turn. So in this deck, you go Smee into that John Silver or Alice John Silver the next turn. Just like keep him alive and cooking, and he just does what he does. It's just like another body. Like it's like I feel like it's so broken. I know. It seems not that broken because it's just like, oh, it's just a 2-drop 3/3. But like when you have your opponent like a top deck situation, they're playing an aggro style deck like this, and then they're like, oh, draw, place tap 2, place me, and I'm looking at like brawl, anything besides Medusa, or like I have a Sisu, big Sisu. I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, we had Snake that was a 2-drop, 3/3 quest for 1, and you had to bring something back. Usually, your turn 1 play back to him. So 3/3 quest for 2, and even the downside, like you mentioned, with the captain synergy to where he doesn't even take a damage, and then one of the most annoying Sapphire cards. One of the reasons you're playing Sapphire for one of the 3 in this deck is Cogsworth, where with that giving it that resist 1. He's just a 3/3 quest for 2 that only costs 2, takes no damage at the end of turn. And then he can also play into some other synergies. Some of the lists that still play Popsicle, you can just heal him right back up, give him some more longevity. Other ink combinations with Amber healing him up. So his downside sometimes actually ends up being kind of an upside in some scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Corey kind of mentioned it with like talking about the John Silver captain, but it's kind of neat how as like sets have been printed and as we've gotten more captains, like Smea's casually just gets a little better with each captain that's printed. Because
Yeah.
like initially we only had like, you know, the piglet, right? And then when we would quest and people would be like, oh, there goes a damage, and it'd be like, captain, bro. And they'd be, oh, he's a captain, that's so neat. And then now we're like, and it's like the John Silver, and then you've got like the little pirates deck that's a thing, and then it's just we got more captains.
Ruby still Li Shang is actually a captain.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I found that out at locals on Monday. So
Yeah, so we got a few more captains kind of in the meadow circling around helps me not damage himself. But Cogsworth is the tried and true king on that. Moving on, we've already kind of mentioned his name, but let's talk about this John Silver. Shout out Harlan Sweet. This is one of his favorite cards. I'm a big fan of it in this deck. That letting saying a character can't challenge is very strong in the aggro strategy.
absolutely being able to like get that like Alice off on turn 3 and then follow it on turn 4 with like in this situation you have like 3 cards you probably really want to play on 4, which is going to be that the Pluto or the John Silver or the Pete, just to like protect your curve out. The John Silver obviously being saying no to any character on board. The only real out to it would be like playing another rush character like Fox or something like that. But I think it's just good for protecting your play line.
Yeah, I mean, in any aggro deck, how many times have you played an aggro deck, and if you just had one extra turn to, you know, put on the gas, and that sometimes gives you that one extra turn of Alice questing and procking that extra lore gain, and sometimes that's all you need. And no matter what removal Ruby has, Steel Song has, sometimes it's too late by that point. John Silver helps you get there because by that time in the game, a lot of times you don't have too many high strength characters being able to take out like that Alice for willpower body.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end game, like he can, when you just need that one more lore, he can almost like functionally be Pete. Like he is not as powerful as Pete, but he can basically stand in for Pete if all you need is that character to stick.
Just look at that shark your opponent just played. No touchy, no touchy.
Yeah.
I'll quest, but he can sit there. Yeah, moving on to our next 3/3 steel body, we've got the classic, the friend, the every steel deck's favorite, Corey's bane of his existence.
This card
The
in 5-drop Elsa.
the cold wave of Lorcana, P Games referee. Go ahead, talk about him, Corey. I know you love to talk about
Ban
him.
this card. Ban this card. Like, this card should not exist. Like a card that literally just says my opponent can't play the game. This card is not good.
How many actions do you play in the new Ruby Sapphire builds?
Listen, we don't have to talk about it, all right? But
you can't play half your deck.
Over half. But yeah, no, it's this. I mean, still matchups are. I mean, Amethyst matchups. We probably talked about Genie Wars and how important certain cards are to winning your Genie Wars and Amethyst matchups. And then Pete is basically the same thing, but for steel, if the only way to beat a good time Pete is to have a better time Pete, which is the one that's played the next turn. So it's definitely it's just gonna stay in the meta as long as it's not rotated out or banned, and it just turns off all actions and songs. So like you really can't do anything about it besides playing all character deck. Shout out Lily Fossa.
Yeah, no, this deck is or this card is backbreaking for so many decks. Ruby Sapphire, Steel Song, we play the card, but God, I sometimes wish it was banned, even though we play it in our deck, because it feels terrible to be played against it. I've now played this version of Sapphire Steel now twice in the ICL, and shout outs to RJ with the portal. I played him in match 3. We were on game 3 of deciding which team won that game, that match, and I kid you not, turn 3 Pete, turn 4 Pete, turn 5 Pete, turn 6 Pete, and I wanted to scream and quit this game. Still somehow came back and won that game, but 4 Petes in a row is absolutely ridiculous. It is a miracle that I just had nothing but songs. So as soon as I was not peated, I was back in the game. But it's just so impactful. And like Korey, you mentioned, the best way to combat a Pete is typically to play a Pete back of your own. To which I always think back of I don't know if you played Uno this way, because everyone plays Uno differently apparently, but you do a plus
Stacking
4
reverses.
Yeah, you play a plus 4 wild card, and we always played where you could stack them, and then the only way to not get plus 4'd was you played your own plus 4, and then you really screwed the other person up. I will say it's given some life and some relief to one of the worst mirror matches, in my opinion. Right? Granted, I know I'm biased, but Steel Song mirrors just have always felt so terrible and so lopsided, even more so than your typical play draw disparity. And at least in the mirror, if on turn 3 I play a Pete go on the draw, I can then break their tempo swing of just removing all my characters as I play them, hopefully played in Ursula on turn 2, and I can kind of steal back the game. But if they are up to snuff with Steel Song mirrors, they'll probably have saved a Pete as well, hopefully. And then they'll just Pete you back, and then you're like, okay, cool, I still lose.
Yeah, Pete is one of the hugest cards in the game for allowing you to go second. But it's a mega bad feeling when the person going first has 2. Like we've talked about on the P Wars, it's damaging. Let's go ahead and move on to the next 2 cards. I'm very excited about these. Big fan. Played them both in separate occasions. 2 of the strongest bodyguards in the game, in Pluto and Chiempo. Serving different purposes, but both very much the same. They're protecting our board, right? But the great thing about these bodyguards specifically is that they are units. Pluto is a 5/5. Chien Pao, what is he? He's a 4/7, right? Yeah, he is living through lots of swinging and also smacking back. These cards are also, like, probably because you have to run something in, trading with something in the process. They're just huge. I love these bodyguards, man. Playing them in Blue Steel has been one of my favorite things. Rip the old ways.
Yeah, I think Pluto's just OD because he's got that ability that gives him +4 power. So whatever you're swinging into him first to try to get rid of him, you're either trading or you're sacrificing a little body to get a 2-for-1 in, or maybe your second character survives. But Chenpo's a unit. You put that guy out there and he's hanging out there for a while, unless we don't talk about Bruno or Be Prepared or something like that. But other than that, he's sticking, and that seems to be the theme with a lot of these cards. It's just you want to just make your character stick as long as possible.
Yeah, Pluto's been a staple in this Kiwi Birds deck. So nice and so frustrating to play against when it's paired with Alice. Just because if you don't have a board-based deck, you're not Zeusing that Pluto for free because Alice is questing, giving Pluto ward. They don't even care about it losing out on the extra lore gain that Alice gives for that turn because you're gaining so much more because that Pluto is blocking everything. You're not getting through it, and with it having ward, can't be removed easily. Chien Po has been historically great at dodging most every removal. Steel's not going to easily remove that. Ruby, even, which boasts great unless you're running Dragonfire. It's not getting Medusa'd, which has been the staple of does it die to Medusa for ever since that card was out. How we
83% of the cards.
Right. So he's part of the 17%. Shout out Chien Po. So yeah, he's insane card value.
Yeah. He lives to Maui, which is absolutely huge.
Yeah. It's the biggest thing.
How many small children do you think Pluto has eaten in his time?
He's eaten
Small
lots of
children,
T-pos.
you're referring to T-Po?
Yeah,
Dozens.
that one.
Dozens of thousands.
Dozens of thousands. I was like, dozens.
Many Plutos have made their way to the kennel, starting off with I'll throw my T-Po into him to make him small, please.
Yep.
Please and thank you.
Next card, big fan. Shout out Courtney, loves him. Gantu. He is a unit like many of these cards. He is a 4/3, but he quests for 4. Absolutely absurd. Especially when given ward by Alice, like many of the cards in this deck, he can go up to 5, which is a fourth of your win condition, mind you. Which you've probably achieved the other 75% once you're slapping Gantu down. What you guys think about Gantu? Redemption after the set 1.
Yeah, I was gonna say Gantu is the epitome of the term glow up. We went from the least desirable legendary ever in the first chapter to having, I think, 3 solid cards back to back to back. This one, and then the pseudo Pete 4-drop uninkable in the latest set. I think cards are like kind of said it all. Quest for 4. That's all you really need to know about it. Obviously, having 4 strength, or that means it's not dying to any of the things we've talked about. The 3 willpower is a little unfortunate, just because it makes it a little more susceptible to removal. But like kind of Bruce said, once you're slapping this card, it's usually you either answer this or I win, and if they don't have it, they don't have it. So
yeah, I was exactly gonna say he's the definition of a plain old vanilla card that is a high impact that asks the question to your opponent, do you have an answer to me? If not, you're most likely losing this game. Played against a lot of Amethyst Steel and Sapphire Steel that have played Gantu, and if I have, no songs to deal with them, or Alice has given him ward to allow him, I have no way to interact with that unless I have a, big Cinderella stout-hearted. And so he just asks a lot of your opponent and really makes you react to him.
Yeah, Gantu's scary. And yeah, I scare. We've already talked about the Robin Hood shift. Let's move on to set 1 removal that we've seen come in and out of the format with the bird, basically. Fire the Cannons, 2 damage, uninkable, solid card all around. What do you guys see its application in this deck?
Cindy removal.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 words: Cindy Diablo. It says I don't care if you better have that cove, and then I'm not getting killed by that Cindy on 1. So that's pretty much all it is. You either have Sticky Mickey or you have the cannon.
Yeah, because like we mentioned before, there's a lot of 3 willpower, so it's not going to be this impactful card for against everything in the meta, but it's there for those specific reasons that can impact the matchup quite heavily.
Yeah. It's a pretty strong tech card. You see it come in and out when necessary, basically. It's one of those things we've talked about where the side deck is kind of like built into the decks in this game, and Fire the Cannons is like a prime example of that, I think. Moving on to probably, arguably, the best steel song in the game. Strength of a Raging Fire, Inkable, 1 damage for each character you control. Applies pretty well with a deck that's just trying to flood the board, right?
100%.
Yeah, I hate this card.
Yeah.
This card has single-handedly lost me so many games because my opponent will be like going wide, and I'm trying to set up my shark to sink Pirate's Life, or set up like little Sisu, or my any of my big removal plays, and they'll just be like, oh, I'll just strength, and I'm just like, yep, you got it. I literally at CCS I watched Amethyst Steel playing against Blue Red, Sapphire Ruby, and they the Sapphire Ruby had the game won because they had the shark and 2 Pirates' Lives in hand. So they were like chilling, and they were like, the only thing I lose to is a strength. And the guy draws for turn, it's strength. He shoots the shark. Shark's banished. Game plan's over. GG's. It was a wrap. So yeah, the card's good. I would contest that it's one of the best songs just because sometimes it's also very, very dead. Like if you don't have, if you haven't been able to establish your whiteboard or get anything to stick, which is not the goal of this deck, obviously, it can kind of be a dead draw, but I feel like it's definitely got its upside.
Yeah, and throughout all that, it's inkable. So in those times where I don't need it, I can ink it, as opposed to some other cards. And yeah, it's extremely impactful, and it gives life to some of these 3-drop cards that have high impact but low impact the subsequent turns, like Pete and John Silver, where the turn they come out, they're going to do something that's very impactful to the board state, but afterward, they're a 3/3 quest for 1, not very outstanding, but they are a threat just because they can sing this Strength of a Raging Fire, while I can use my ink for other resources.
Absolutely. This I think that like strength is just like the prime example of like putting your foot on the neck of your opponent. Like when you're already winning, you're doing well, you're probably gonna win, and then you just take them out of the game with a strength that's just gonna like push you to the end. Like you're sitting across from this deck, and you think you're about to get back in the game, and then they peach you, and you're like, well, that sucks. And then they Pluto you, and you're like, well, that's even worse. And then they sing strength with the P, and you're like, okay, I get it. We'll go to the next game. It's just rough all the way around.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to go ahead and move on from this deck list. If you have not somehow watched one of the ITL videos before enjoying this wonderful series, oftentimes the first deck takes the longest as we are going through the cards for the first time. But now let's move on to Green Steel. This deck has risen quickly in popularity again. We're seeing it everywhere. Lots of powerful green cards being supported by our steel songs and some powerful steel cards that we've seen for quite a few sets now. The first one in this list, don't think we need to say too much about Pete or Pluto in this deck, unless you guys have something you want to point out about them in this deck specifically.
Beautiful shift target for Pete against Silsong. If you go Pete into Space Pirate Pete on 4, it's a piece de resistance. You're feeling great.
Absolutely, yeah. That is something different in this.
You're having to keep that World's Greatest Criminal Mind and hard cast it. It's one of the main reasons I keep that card in the deck now that Big Tomato is pretty much gone.
Yeah, the shift Pete's kind of like it's technically an emerald card, but it's also a steel card. So I don't know if it was around when we did the emerald video, but the card's pretty impressive, turning off the ability to sing your opponent's ability to sing cards. like via exerting characters. So
Yeah. And then just to touch on Pluto, I get like with a lot more evasive answers in the format. Pluto's kind of huge, right? So we have like a way to protect Diablo. And then also like cards like Ursula Singer that you want to see to stick around because if that card sticks around, the game's probably ending, right?
yeah.
And then it also like gives you the opportunity if you want to be risky to like quest with your Prince Johnny then, or if you like had to sing like a sudden show with it.
Or Zeus.
Or Zeus, yeah. So like you get to do a lot of like nice things with Pluto. It lets you play a little riskier. Um, Next up, we have one of the classic favorites and Sad Beast to draw two at the start of your turn. We're seeing him kind of in here with the ability to be shifted on Morph, right? We still have no really good viable shift targets for Sad Beast other than Morph. Um, but he's really good. What you guys think about Beast?
Yeah, I think it's another classic card. Obviously, drawing one card at the beginning of your turn is mandatory. Drawing the second card is fantastic. It feels great, especially in a deck like Emerald still, where you're typically using an Exodia combo that's going to put you down to like 2 cards if you pull it off. So I think it's definitely that. It's also there for a really good comeback mechanic. Um, because if your opponent is not able to deal with it or put damage on it or whatever it may be, you're just gonna naturally out resource your opponent. Um, and on top of all that, it's inkable and a quest for 2. Like, it doesn't seem like you can go very wrong unless there's a heavy presence of Medusa in the format. Then it feels pretty rough.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a time where this was the most expensive legendary we had in the game. And foils were like 80 plus bucks at some
Yeah,
point. Uh, yeah, it's an extremely impactful card. And a lot of times you're going to want to put some form of damage, whether that be playing we'll see it here shortly, but a big Tinkerbell to ping for 1 or Storm Rage on to ping it for 2. But then you've just activated its ulterior motive of it being a massive 7 strength, where it is taking out pretty much anything in the game at this point. So they're almost not as worried about it. Like, yes, they would rather have the extra card, but now you've just buffed their card to where now they can trade out with something bigger than it potentially.
absolutely.
Yeah, kind of like Corey said, this is one of those cards that can just absolutely snowball it in the game. Like letting it resolve once is like scary enough. It resolving twice, and you're probably not coming
While
back.
it's next to a Exert Diablo.
Yeah.
They're just drawing all cards.
Or another beast.
Oh no, yeah. What about second piece?
We touched on Pete when we talked about Little Pete. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about him?
Just another thing that is nice with this. It's not in this list, but in some lists with Emerald still, he does have the ability that while he's exerted, other pirate characters gain resist 1. So that means cards like Smee do not take the damage at the end of the turn. And then it also helps with your bodyguard Pluto and your other stuff, just sustaining more on board. And then putting him on Cove makes him very hard to remove because he becomes a 6/6 with resist 1. So it's kind of like that whole thing where we were talking about with 6 willpower, the card just becomes a whole nother problem.
Yeah, the fact that when I first read this card, that there's a lot of cards in Lorcana that say other characters gain X, and the fact that this was like just pirates gain resist 1, so it includes himself, I thought was pretty crazy.
Yeah, turns itself on when it challenges.
Yeah, it's completely a different card. Like, you wouldn't think that that going from 5 to 6 is super impactful, but it's one of those huge breakpoints in Lorcana for when it comes to damage calculation.
Absolutely. Let's move on to one of the favorites. Already been revealed to have been reprinted for post rotation, so we know that we're going to be seeing her for a long time. Big Tinkerbell, 6 drop, 4/5, 1 damage to everything, shift 4. Fantastic card. Hates to see Zeus coming her way though. What you guys think about Tink? I have not liked her as much with as many Zeus running around, but we do see her coming back into the format with all these purple and seal decks.
Yeah, I think its inclusion in this deck is probably a lot for the mirror match. Also, the when it takes down another character, dealing 2 damage to a second character, uh, super strong ability if you're playing against, let's say, Amber still, or another, or like I said, the mirror match with Emerald still, because you could take out the 1-drop Cindy that they're trying to save for their shift Cindy, or take out a Tipo that they've been just using as the little lore machine that he is. So I think it has a lot of application. Spread damage, and then like it's not in this list, but I know a heavy combo back in the day used to be shift Tink, Tink Sing, grab your swords, deal 3 to the board. This
Oh, it'd be still my
wombo
beating heart.
wombo combo that people used to fear on a regular. So
Yeah, that one game's by itself, and even then, I've been talking about. I think I mentioned to potentially one of you or someone at the 2K House of Cards event. I almost went back to an Amber Steel build that included lanterns and Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, especially with the reintroduction of grab your swords kind of being seeing some niche play right now, especially not having any other answers to Prince John since due to Ward. And yeah, Tinkerbell is just overall a really good tempo play when you're able to just ping a couple things off. People will be taking favorable trades where they're running their Fox into a 2 power character and leaving it with 1 health. And it feels so great when you just play Tinkerbell and take out multiple threats just by laying it on the board, and then they have to deal with it. And so, yes, they may have that answer, but you've already kind of dealt with some uh, math problems that your opponent wasn't ready for.
Matt was telling me last night at locals he got to clear a song player's board with Tink and Ursula double singing Bippity Boppity Boo. That sounds pretty That sounds pretty gnarly.
I watched that happen. I watched that happen. The Devil Singer Ursula hit the Tink, bing, 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 3 damage. So basically, Tink grab your swords combo, but a little bit extra spice in there with the Devil Singer Ursula. So yeah, that was a crazy thing to watch.
Gosh, so funny. I love this card. All right, moving on. This is a neat card that's been coming in and out of the format. I'm still here. Song that provides resist. All of these songs become much crazier when double sung by Ursula, obviously. What do you guys think about I'm Still Here?
I think it's a hot card. I think you're primarily using it in this to have that song for the Diablo to sing after the shift. Give it that resist so it's not dying to like a fire the cannons or a brawl, or not a brawl, a fire the cannons or a storm the next turn against Amber Still or Blue Still, as we saw it was teched in there. And then it also draws a card. So you can't go wrong with that. Protecting your draw card and drawing a card at the same time feels pretty good. Giving Ursula two. I think it gives resist 2, so giving her resist 4 and drawing 2 cards is also pretty nice. Is it resist 1?
Pretty sure it's resist 1.
Even giving her resist 2 and drawing 2 cards is still good, regardless.
Yeah, it's friends on the other side with bonus resist 2.
Yeah, so I think it's a neat card. Seeing it as a 1-of is kind of interesting, but you have to play with weird ratios in the meta right now. So
yeah, I think Emerald Steel also kind of tries to hit a break point of how many actions you're playing so that you can reliably have one to shift Diablo. And I'm Still Here kind of fills that role of an inkable slot there. I've definitely seen it not be as much of a staple, but more of a it'll pop in every now and then and say I'm still here. So no pun intended. Well, I guess pun intended. But I've seen
You're
it
such a
really be
dad.
most. I've seen it most be impactful in the Pete Wars because you're having a bunch of 3/3s on the board. They're all kind of stalemated, knowing okay, Pete, Smee, all these 3/3s. And other colors. I know Snake's not much out there, but you have all these 3/3s that are just going to all trade into each other. So a lot of times you'll be like, okay, I'm going to quest with my Pete. What do you want to do? Trade your Pete? I'm fine with that. And then they go, I'm still here. And they're like, the thing is, I'm not going to trade my Pete. It's going to take yours out and survive. And now you just feel really bad about having quested your 3/3. You get taken out for free while they draw a card and keep theirs on board.
Yeah, this is kind of like the one tech super goof as well in Din's list, to where because it's in there, you kind of have to consider it and play around it. Because the random resist one is like definitely kind of like you were mentioning, DJ. It's gonna shift the math. It's gonna make your opponents play kind of weird. They're gonna have to play awkwardly. Sometimes, especially if it's double sang by Ursula, you're gonna like be sitting there, you're like, okay, well, what I was gonna do now, I'm gonna change that. It might even force you into something super suboptimal that you didn't want to do. So the value of that card can be anywhere from nothing to game winning, I think.
Yeah.
Next up, this was not in the last list, so we get to talk about a little bit of a staple song that we've mentioned a few times now. But Let the Storm Rage On has been the bane of many people's existence on turn 2 for several sets now. I'll let DJ take the lead on this and tell us about Storm Rage On.
Oh yeah, I mean, even just outside of Amber Steel songs, it is definitely a very impactful card, especially when being sung twice by Ursula. It draws a card on top of dealing 2 damage to a chosen character. So yeah, there's plenty of times where I've sung Let the Storm Rage On an empty board, which the first time I did it, I had to fight people in the LGS that I did it in of you can sing Let the Storm Rage On, or I guess cast Let the Storm Rage on an empty board just to draw a card. Just steal removal at its best while also cycling a card. If you're needing to deal 2 or less damage, Let the Storm Rage On is typically going to be your song of choice over even Strength of Raging Fire, and that card is busted simply because it will replace itself, which resources are everything. And if you can cheat it out by singing it with something that can do it before turn 4 of a 3-drop naturally coming in on turn 3 and singing on turn 4, like we have Cinderella Ballroom Sensation, we have Bell that banishes an item and plays it as early as turn 1, and then we have Diablo who can come in and just completely take out your board, and then you're playing catch up while they're drawing cards with you. It can be very frustrating to play against for sure.
Got anything to add on that, Korey?
No, I love this card when I have my double sing Ursula and I'm playing against like a deck with like a 1/4, and I'm just like, let's shoot that twice and draw 2 cards and
Bing, bang.
bang bang. Yeah, no, it covered it pretty well. I mean, drawing a card, dealing damage, it's what it still does.
Mhm.
Pretty solid all around. We've already hit on strength, but moving on to another insane seal song. We've got the one Zeus in this deck. I love this card. It's got the versatility of hitting characters or locations for 5 damage. It's got one of the most beautiful enchantments in the game. What do you guys think about Zeus?
Card's busted. Dealing 5 damage is really good. I think it's just a spicy one of in this list for your Ruby Sapphire matchup or your Sapphire or your Ruby Amethyst matchup if they're on the Shark build, because it's usually you're putting your opponent on no cards in hand, but if they're able to ink up and play a Shark, you want to be able to answer that immediately before they get any value off of it. So
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's a giant removal spell or song. and from the best franchise in Disney, in my opinion. Hercules is always my go-to. Beautiful Enchanted. It was our first action Enchanted, if I remember correctly. We had those alongside the what item and location Enchanted that set, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think objectively it is one of the most amazing Enchanteds. I had to grab them. The only reason I'll never run 4 Along Came Zeus in my Steel Song deck is simply because I do not own a 4th Enchanted Along Came Zeus.
Gotta flex.
Yeah, you have one.
Understandable. All right, well, we're gonna move on from Yucky Green Steel to DJ's favorite. Let's talk about Steel Song. We've touched on the shift. I'll let DJ talk about how it applies in this deck a little differently though.
Yeah, the Robin Hood shift definitely is a bit more threatening in this list because it's not just threatening board state of being able to challenge down a character with 3 or less willpower, and then while I gain lore in the process, it's also always going to threaten singing a whole new world. And Amber Steel, in typical fashion, is typically going to want to sing that early whole new world in most matchups, where you're not wanting to kind of run out of gas before your characters get removed. And so just that threat, playing potentially 1-drop into double 1-drop, and if you have 2 Robin Hood you on turn 2, then they're kind of just have to be like, all right, if you got it, you got it. But then, as I mentioned before, just that threat of it, there are plenty of times where I will faint as if I do have the Robin Hood shift line just to bait out that removal and that brawl if I'm on the draw. And then we hope they don't have second brawl for Ariel, for example, because if they don't brawl it, then I could have that shift Robin Hood and then sing Whole New World. So yeah, it's just a lot of mind games and a lot of options that it gives you.
Next card, very quickly, Smee is obviously always going to be a good turn 2 play, but the best part about it in this deck is it being a cheap card that you can slap down and that quest for 2 after a Whole New World and as a body.
It's also an ally.
It is an ally, which makes another steel card that we'll talk about. Let's go ahead and talk about Bianca. Corey, you take the lead on her.
Bianca busted 5/5, 6-drop, 6-drop. But if you have an ally in play, it reduces play cost by 2. So a 4-drop. So obviously your main plays on 4 are going to be either establishing Naveen to sing a song out of your hand for free, Rapunzeling a character to get more draw cards, or establishing a Bianca so that you can solidify a Singer 5 into your game plan. And then obviously it's just statted monstrously. So it's all good. It's all up, man. Worst case, sinkable.
Yeah.
Biggest card in this deck because we're not playing the Cindy.
Yeah, and that's another thing that Amber Steel decks have long been known for, is having nothing over like strength 3. So taking out locations if you're not running the big queen to pump up one of your characters, or you're not having to dump a Zeus into a location, which doesn't always feel great when you can save it for like a shark, a Maui shark. Miss Bianca's definitely got a place in there. I've played around with it and played around without it. There are times where I just assume it's cost 4 because of how often it does only cost 4. And newsflash, it does sometimes cost 6. that I've inked and been like, okay, I'm gonna ink this and play Bianca, and then I was like, I can't play Bianca. I'm dumb. And the 4-drop slot in Amber Steel especially has always been a bit iffy because not every list plays Prince Naveen, and typically you'll have just Rapunzel as your only character that is a 4 cost, and you don't always want to just drop a raw Rapunzel. That doesn't always feel great. So Bianca gives that another, yeah, like just playing it a naked. No, God dang it, never mind. A Rapunzel without any effect. So Bianca kind of plays on turn 4, and then also it can also be a Rapunzel target. We'll keep moving on.
All right. Let's talk about Lawrence. Lawrence is one thing I took away from, I think it was Chris Oyola in the 20 Lore Discord, is in certain lists you almost treat Lawrence like an uninkable because he's just that valuable in the Steel Song deck. He is a 4/4 until he's damaged, and he quests for 2, so he's one of those units that DJ was mentioning this deck kind of lacks. And he's very good against Ruby decks. What you guys think about Lawrence?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think he's probably one of the hardest things in the game in this deck to deal with, because just like Pluto we talked about in the other matchups, like you have to find a way to put damage on it before it's fairly easy to remove. If not, you're usually sacrificing potentially 2 characters or 1 and then using another one that could be questing, and then questing for 2 and being inkable is a super strong character. I think it's like you said, it's kind of like something you ideally want to see into most of your Ruby matchups.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it.
He's an ally, so he's a great turn 3, getting ready to go into a Bianca. Very similar to Pluto, minus the sans the bodyguard aspect that Pluto has, where in certain matchups you'll be like, yeah, he's sometimes going to catch a stray Storm Rage on, but oftentimes if they don't have a way to finish him off, then I'm going straight into my Rapunzel turn. That's going straight back to that. But and then if you're challenging into him, yeah, same with Pluto. I don't know how many little boy Tipos this man sort of has abducted, but he usually takes out a Tipo and then gets taken out for free by whatever other card finishes him off. But yeah, he definitely does work.
He's gonna make you
Rapunzel target.
He's gonna make you your opponent like play awkwardly or trade like unfavorably in the best case scenario, I think. Last card that we have not touched on yet is A Whole New World, aka Wheel. Whoever wants to talk about that, y'all can talk about that.
Yeah, it's Doc Senior. Discard your hand, draw 7. I mean, everybody knows this card. I feel like at this point, set 1 staple. It's been an Amber Steel Song since the very beginning. It's pretty much your win condition sometimes, and other times it gets you to your win condition, which is like play Pete, sing Wheel, slap down 4/1 drops, and pray they stick. So, so I mean, it's as good as it gets for draw cards.
Yeah, and I think A Whole New World definitely gives a lot of skill expression as well to the Steel Song deck as well, because you're going to have times where it may seem like the right time to cast A Whole New World, and even just delaying it by 1 turn can be sometimes too late. You may get greedy and not play that Whole New World, and sometimes it's objectively the right play to wait another turn, and then they top deck exactly the 1 card that you didn't want them to see.
2 drop first wall.
Yeah. Oh, cool. All right. And you show them, you just put it in the discard, and you're like, okay, cool. But yeah, it helps you even mill out some decks. So getting rid of all their cards in their deck, because some of those heavy draw decks. Let's see. The most recent one was this past weekend, where was it Wojciech milled out?
That was awesome.
Yeah. And with that last Whole New World, he was even just flipping them off the top because he lost if
if he didn't hit it.
And it was what, the last card or the second
It
last
was the
card?
last card. Yeah, the last card.
Yeah, and they said it went crazy in there. So yeah, I mean, you can sing a whole new world as early as turn 2 in this game. Not in this list in particular, but those shift lines getting you to cheat out a 5 cost or greater singer, and then Ariel being a singer 5, a couple other singer 5s in the game that would allow you to cast this earlier. Soon to be Powerline, which is surely going to be a singer in Amber. So he'll be singing a whole new world along with his Eye to Eye very soon.
Yeah.
God,
I think
that's
the comment about it being skill expressive is very true. We have Ashton from our Monday locals. She loves Amber still, but she hates Amber Still's song because she's like, I just never know when to wheel and when not to wheel. So
yeah, it's definitely hard because some matchups you will hold that whole new world all game long, and it is essentially a dead card that you do not ever pull that ripcord unless it is absolutely I'm going to lose already. So might as well
see
potentially
what I can get.
get the most cracked hand of songs to zap everything they have. But even then, against aggro decks, sometimes you really don't want to hold new world them.
It also feels horrible to be holding that wheel for the right time to play it, and then you draw the other one, and you're like, no.
Exactly.
the will giveth, the will taketh. All right, we have 2 deck lists left. We're gonna take a look at Zach Bivens's Purple Seal list from this past weekend. Steel cards that we have not seen in here. Cobra, yeah. So Cobra is half steel, half purple. One of the newest cards, one of the only new additions to the deck. Gains 2 lore, is a unit. Any comments about the Cobra?
Yeah, I mean, it gains 2 lore, and it is a unit. The only downside to this card is the vanish effect. Because if you're, I mean, you've really gotten the value out of it, even if it gets hit with the vanish effect, but you can't really take as much advantage of the 4/4 body like you can with like Lawrence. But it's done its job, so you can't be too upset about it.
Yeah, and I mean, not everyone is playing a bunch of low impact cards like Good Job and things, and most of it's going to be targeted removal, and it does have to be a valid target. You can't target it with a brawl. Let the Storm Rage on is the best case scenario for your opponent playing on the Giant Cobra because they're drawing a card and doing a 2 damage action. But a lot of times I've had where they have a vanish character, and the only thing I have to zap it with is a strength or a Zeus that would have killed it regardless, or banished it regardless of the vanish mechanic. So it wasn't even really a downside in that case.
Yeah, no, he's really good into those, red matchups, as we mentioned, those vanish characters, those units are absolutely a powerful card. I love the Cobra. Yeah, there's not much else to say about this deck. This version specifically, kind of like DJ's favorite Steel song, is kind of taking advantage, taking a page out of the Steel Song playbook and trying to take advantage of having, 3 cost singers that can take advantage of these songs. Plays, the rabbits and the goats, the elses, so they can sing Zeus's just to not lose tempo, continue to build the board. Similar game plan, just trying to be maybe a little less explosive, a little more consistent, not being on the wheel.
Or Doc.
Yeah. Not taking that Doc approach. Lastly, I think we needed to talk about a fun steel deck. So oftentimes you see, if you ever see Ruby Steel, you see it on wheel. But I saw this Robin Hood Actions version and thought it was pretty neat, and we should talk about it. A new steel card, Captain Hook. Let's talk about Captain Hook.
The OG D23 first series of cards ever printed. 1/2 demon. He got that challenger too, so he's eating anything they turn sideways on turn 1 or 2 probably. besides
Captain.
besides Daisy, and he's a captain. Keeps your SME alive and cooking, which is what he's really here for. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he's historically known for stalemating the board just sitting there ready, and your opponents also just keeping their things ready because they don't want to give up their, SME or something like that to just be taken out by your one cost character. And so, yeah, he's usually trading up if he's allowed to challenge with at least another a 2-drop, 3-drop, and sometimes even more.
Yeah, one thing that Ruby Steel is notoriously struggles with is drawing cards. So this deck kind of forsakes that idea. It kind of revolves a lot around challenging, obviously, right? Because we've got all the Mushu, we got the Robin Hood shift line we've seen, we've got the Calhouns, but we've got this Robin Hood action we've added in here. And songs are always cool when they're free because you sung them, but they're even cooler when you play them from your deck for nothing. So that feels great. Have you ever hit a Pirate's Life off of this Robin Hood? I've done it a couple of times in Red Green. It's the sauce. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
Ruby Emerald discard action was I played that for like a week at locals, and it was a very very fun deck. Super high rolly, but
Yeah,
very fun hitting Pirate's Life, or we don't talk about Bruno or a Brawl for free. It's just like
yeah.
we like
We
that.
got Robin Hood sing Zeus from the deck. Saucy. Gain a lore off your shark.
uh,
Um, this deck's
yeah,
just deep.
Mushu.
Is that, yeah. No, yeah. Mushu is a steel card. Talk about Mushu, and then
Uh,
we'll finish this up.
it kind of just embodies the whole bottom end of the deck. You're really trying to like set up your 1, 2, 3 characters to either get shifted on and challenge stuff. Every time you challenge, your character that's challenging gets resist 2, and you gain 2 lore. So it's that's kind of the early lore gain mechanic is establishing that Mushu, and then it looks like in this you're trying to close it out with the Robin Hood Shark Pirate Life combo. Not as the steel cards are just there to facilitate your stuff not dying early or getting banished early. Want to keep your things on board as long as you can to establish that one of your 2 win conditions. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I know one of the downsides to this kind of Ruby Steel archetype here is if they don't give you a board to challenge, a lot of your value is in those challenges, and that can be sometimes frustrating as the Ruby Steel player. Kind of a unsung hero that's not seen in this deck, but it is a steel card that I have seen in some of the kind of cutesy, spicy Ruby Steel lists with Shark is the One Last Hope song, which allows your character, if it's a hero, to attack readied characters. Oh, he had it right in front of him. You had it ready. Are you playing around with that card, or you just have it next to you randomly?
It just happened to be there. I'm not gonna
Oh,
lie.
okay. Okay, that was convenient. But yeah, being able to allow a hero character to attack a readied character, and like Maui Shark being able to get that back and loop it. What I've seen it with what Fan the Flames
Phantom
and One
Flames,
Last
yeah.
Hope. And I mean, you could do LeFou, but usually you're trying to loop those actions. So yeah,
Yeah,
they
because
definitely have some options.
One Last Hope also gives it resist, so you're able
Yeah,
to fan the flames for free,
I'm just
essentially, and just like keep challenging, getting the lore.
yeah, that's crazy. It's like one of those very difficult to set up, but when it happens, you're gonna be like, this deck is broken, but then it won't work because
Was it
all the pieces won't come together every single time.
the first time we saw the combo on a stream? Was a tournament, and some guy pulled it off onto a 5-character board and won the game off of it, and I was like, this is the thing. I'm doing it. I'm pulling this off. It never happened. I got it off like once.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get it, you get it, and when you don't, you're like, those cards could be something else.
Well, uh, You guys, everything else you want to talk about? Any seal cards that we didn't see you want to name drop?
I think one of the bigger ones that I'm starting to see more and more of now is going to be Grab Your Sword. I saw a couple Amber Steel lists over the weekend playing multiple copies of Grab Your Sword.
Multiple.
That's deal 2 damage to all opposing characters. And I think I'd also like to throw in Bagheera, because Bagheera is a newer card that is a bodyguard, and if it is banished on your opponent's turn, it also deals 2 damage to all your opposing characters. So I think both of those cards are good, and I think Bagheera more so is going to get even more limelight time, given the rotation announcement. So be interested to see where all these decks go, and if we retap all these videos and see what deck lists are looking like in a year from now after rotation. So
Any last
Yeah,
comments,
I
DJ?
think a couple that did kind of already mention the Cinderella Stouthearted has been a fairly prevalent, well-known card. Everyone knows, just like Big Tink, we know Big Cinderella. That's another really impactful card, and we've actually seen Aerial Sonic Warrior be a steel card, which has kind of complemented the brawlable whiffing Aerial that Steel Song plays. And yeah, we're just kind of seeing, as we progress into the steel meta, more steel cards to kind of pop out of there that we probably wouldn't see so much when everything was just getting removed. So we couldn't really afford to have all those, like even a 3/8, which seems great, of Aerial Sonic Warrior, if it's just going to die to be banished by Medusa or something.
Yeah, no. Those are some neato cards, and I do like seeing the Ariel come into play because I have an enchanted that I want. So, all right, so that is gonna be it for the ITL video series, guys. If you enjoyed this, make sure to leave a comment, give us some suggestions. Summer is just around the corner, and we have lots of fun content planned. So keep your eyes out on the channel. We are very excited for some of the things that are coming. As always, shout out Dragon's Horde and House of Cards, our sponsors in Greensboro and Winston-Salem, respectively. Um, check out our Metafy, our coaching. Check out our YouTube, all of our socials, and join the Discord and chat with us and hang out and just join the Ohana. Do you guys have any last things before we go?
yeah, big tournament announcements. We Dragon's Horde is hosting 2 big tournaments on Reign of Jafar release, a multi-case tournament with Set 8 legal on release weekend, as well as a PSA 10 Elsa tournament with additional pricing of multiple cases to 1st through 8th place, I believe, as well that same weekend. And then the following weekend, we are going to have a scaling multi-case tournament at House of Cards, leading into the new set, getting us all prepared for CCS in June.
Yeah. And I know I'm extremely, extremely late to the Gemtech bag family, but I'm super excited as I just ordered my first Gemtech bag, which should be here because I pre-ordered it August September timeframe. But we are an affiliate of Gemtech, so we should have that discount link down below, so you can save money on your TCG needs.
Yeah, no, super excited for these big tournaments coming up. Make sure you grind for CCS. We would like to see you all come out, support, hang out, have a fantastic time as they always are. And if you can't make it, watch the stream on Twitch. But that'll be it for us, guys. Hang out, come back, see you soon. See you.